Ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Yantah pravesha mama vachamimam prashuktam Sanjeevayatyakhila shaktidhara swadhamna Anyamscha hastacharana shravana tvagadim Pranannamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. So, ego and false ego is very interesting to understand the difference. So I'll make it very easy. If you put your hand to your head, this is the false ego and this is the real ego. So there's a difference. Ego is here, that which is, okay? And then the false ego is that which is not. So let's break this down a little bit more, and then we'll give you some pointers on how to detect if you're operating from false ego or true ego. This false ego is something that was created by the Creator, given to us, because we wanted it. And how does that work in our practical day-to-day lives? So the way it works is like this. When we come into this world, our natural propensity is to enjoy, and our natural tendency is to be happy. And natural tendency, or the natural understanding of us, is that we are eternal. So what happens is when we turn away from our heart and we connect to anything in this world that is not connected to the heart. So if you divide the body, it's heart and up, heart and above is the primary residence of false ego. False ego means something that which is not. That means all your desire to be happy and be loving, but it is all towards everything outside and nothing to do with the heart. Whatever we can see with our eyes and taste with our mouth and hear with our ears and touch with our hands. When we put our natural nature to be happy and enjoying life, but because the senses are all over the place, we forget that the true happiness is inside, and we try to seek happiness outside. You cannot ever enjoy without false ego. Without false ego, there is no possibility of trying to enjoy the senses, because the true ego wants to enjoy inside and the false ego wants to enjoy outside. So what happens in our life is that we are constantly thinking of how to enjoy, but because of so many objects of the senses that are thrown in our path, we forget that we should be enjoying inside and not outside. So this false ego is very interesting because it is the cause of only the temporary pleasures of our lives. It never gives us the permanent happiness and joy that we're looking for. So false ego gives us immense amount of temporary material happiness. And when we identify with our true eternal spiritual ego, we get permanent happiness and joy. We cannot dissolve the ego, but we can dissolve the false ego. So therefore, yoga is explaining there's so much importance given to learning the art of finding one's true ego, meaning finding your way home. So how does this false ego work? So we have divided into 4 different layers. So the first layer of false ego is your personal identity. That you consider that I can enjoy all of this outside. If you don't think you're the enjoyer, you're not going to do anything. So therefore, you'll see people in the mature world, they're working so hard because they actually believe in the false identity. So individual false identity is given to us by our parents, our society, and that false ego is the first circle. And then you'll find the second layer of false ego is your social circle. That means you hang out with all your friends who think you're cool, and everybody in this group is cool, and anybody outside of this group is not cool. Like I remember when I was growing in the monastery, even though we were told not to cultivate false ego, but there was a group of us friends. There was like 5 of us. And one was from Norway, one was from Poland, one from Chicago, one from Hungary, and I was from India, and we had one boy from the US. And we considered ourselves like the cool monks. And so when people try to join our clique, we would like not want to hang out with them. We would just, he wasn't cool enough. So this is called the social circle, and everybody creates a social circle, social group. And this social group grows into large communities around the world. Like Anandini created the Atlanta Vegan Group. There's about 6,000 members. So yesterday we had a gathering in our vegan cafe in Atlanta, and everybody feels very much part of like the vegan community. And anyone who's not vegan, they're not cool, they're sinful people, and they're not smart enough, they're not environmentally conscious. So you could see the energy of the community was very much centered around we are the best. And everyone, the energy was so intense that we are the elite, we are the best, and no one is so evolved like us. And they wear certain logos, and they wear certain colors of clothes. It's a certain style. You have to wear a certain kind of hat, your shoes, like it's like a whole array of changes that comes externally to these groups of cliques. So we're called the hipsters. Like it's in, we are it. We are the latest cutting edge group of people. And capitalism feeds into it. And then they start to sell clothing and hats and scarves and shoes to market to this group of people. And then this false ego grows beyond that group. It grows to the nation. Like, this is my country, and that's because it's my country, it is the best. Every country thinks that the people in their country, they think our country is the best. We have the best this, we have the best that, Belgium has the best chocolate in the world. Everybody has to claim something that they're best at. So these are the layers of false egos. Anything that is not connected to who you truly are. It is all about everything outside, layers of it. And it's not anyone's fault. You'll be surprised that even when you're born, you have been given an identity, a false identity of who you are. For example, if you ask Krista what she named her baby and why she named her baby a particular name, you will see that Krista and her husband had an idea of what a person was like, who that person was going to be like, and based on their idea of that person, they named their child. So this is how an identity, a false narrative, a false identity with expectations and a pre-made package is handed over to you when you come into this world. I have a friend who named their son Veda after me. And this boy, little boy, already has the expectation to be like me. And poor little guy. So when I met him in Southern California, and we met, I said, "Hi, Veda, it's nice to meet you." And he said, "My father told me so many things about you." And this poor kid has all this baggage of who I am and what he should be like. So I told him that the real Veda is someone who is always happy and always likes to have fun, no matter what. Commit a lot of mischief, but have a lot of fun. Because I wanted to take the weight off of his shoulders to be like me. There's no need. I'm making enough trouble in the world. We don't need 2 Vedas to make double the trouble. So you will notice the names that is given to us. There is an expectation that is given to you even when you are conceived. Imagine you're in the womb when your mother and father are thinking of a person that they want to name you after. And they're thinking, oh, this boy is going to be like, such and he's going to do such and such things. And, he's going to be this way and he's going to be that way. All these connotations.
Donc
The
avec le
emotions are subjected to the kid while the kid has not even seen the sunlight. He's still in the womb. So how to make sure that we are not stuck in this realm of our false identity with false expectations, with false narratives, and with false promises, which are all going to be broken in this one lifetime. How to still make the best out of your life and how to gauge that. You will notice everything we are in our life is something that was told by someone in our lives to do. And whether it is society, whether it is friends, or whether what you saw something on TV or something that trauma that has happened to you, it has nothing to do with you. So it is a false narrative that we are living. You'll be surprised if someone says something unpleasant to you, how quickly you're ready to react and defend from false ego. Because it's the mind. The mind wants to defend. Fights happen, people die, people in the world goes to war based on this false ego. It has nothing to do with the real ego. So now let us see the 4 steps on how you can gauge your own self to see if you're operating from false ego or you're operating from true ego. If you're operating from your heart or you're operating from your mind. So the first step that you will notice, if you're operating from the heart or the mind or the true ego versus the false ego, step 1 is that you will notice there is a shift in perception. You will notice that even though the person calls you a bad name, and the way you perceive it, the way you process it, the way you take it has completely shifted, or it is shifting. You're not affected by things that happen because there's a shift in perception. That means you're not dealing with it with your mind, but rather you're trying to deal with maybe your intelligence or with your heart. And the second indicator that you can see where you're operating from is your ability to build relationships. So the mind has a tendency to divide, and the heart has a tendency to unite. You will naturally build loving relationships with others in your heart. And whoever you are connected to, you'll become more deeper and you'll become more internal with that person, more close bonding. Relationship is not what Eva can do for me and what I can do for him. That is not a relationship. That is called transactional relationship, which is from the mind. And so the third step is acceptance and surrender. You will notice when you have difficulties in your life, when people treat you wrong and you're suffering from COVID, when you accept that, yes, you have COVID, you surrender to the fact that there is a higher power beyond my control. Okay, and when we surrender to that path and we accept this, then we're able to deal with it very, very soberly. Because the heart is accepting, the mind is accepting and rejecting, and surrender is also coming from the heart. And the fourth step, the fourth indicator, is that you'll start to notice your awareness expands, and you'll start to notice each individual as a separate individual entity and not lumping and comparing everybody to others. So for example, you have bad experience, say, with Ramananda Prabhu. And then anytime you have a bad experience with anyone, we just say, oh, you're just like Ramananda. So you don't do that because you have evolved yourself and you start to see everyone as a unique person. And not only that, you'd start to value them. See, if Arlette tells me, She doesn't like my smile. I
Siya,
still accept, yes, I understand. It's very hard to like my smile. And I still see the uniqueness in her, and I still see her value in even in that exchange. So these are the 4 indicators, okay, to understand whether you are shifting from false ego to your true ego. So false ego means that which you are not, and true ego means that which you are. In yoga, that term is called dvija. Ja means to take birth. Aja means he who does not take birth. And dvija means someone who takes birth twice. So it is explained that when you take spiritual vows and you take a spiritual master,
ano,
then what happens? He gives birth to your spiritual identity and tells you that you are an eternal servant of God, and you're now going to dedicate your life to the service of God. So that is called the Dvija, or second birth. And that is the real birth. And that identity that the spiritual master gives you is an identity that is called the spiritual identity in the spiritual world. And that spiritual identity does not have a false ego. False ego is only in the material world, and it is only connected to matter.